Hi there, fifth graders. So today we are going to continue to discuss factors and multiples, but we are going to be talking about two very specific kinds of factors and multiples. We're going to be talking about the least common multiple, or LCM, and the greatest common factor, or GCF. So first, let's define what these are. So the least common multiple of two or more numbers is the lowest multiple that they have in common. Meaning when you list out the multiples, it's the lowest one that they share, the lowest one that they both have. And the greatest common factor, similarly, is the largest factor that both numbers share. So to find the least common multiple and the greatest common factors, we have three steps. First, we list out the multiples or the factors, depending on what it's asking us to do. And we look for matches. We look for what they have in common. And finally, we find the least or the greatest, depending on which we're finding. So for finding the least common multiple, we're looking for the least number, the smallest number. And if we're looking for greatest common factor, we're looking for the greatest number. So there are a couple of ways to find these. So let's start with the least common multiple. So I'm going to make a T-chart to help me to keep these organized. So on one side, I'll have 9. On the other side, we'll have 12. So we'll list out multiples of 9. So 9 times 1 is 9, 9 times 2 is 18, 9 times 3 is 27, 9 times 4 is 36, 9 times 5 is 45, 9 times 6 is 54, 9 times 7 is 63, 9 times 8 is 72, and so on. And then we can look at 12. 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 12 times 3 is 36. 12 times 4 is 48. 12 times 5 is 60. And we'll stop there. So we've listed our multiples and our factors. Now we're going to look for matches. So I see that both in the 9 column and in the 12 column, we have 36. And that is the smallest number that they have in common. So the least common multiple of 9 and 12 is 36. Now we can do the same thing for greatest common factor. So let's clear out our T-chart. And remember that when we factor, they always come in pairs. So we'll have 40 on one side again, and then we'll have 64 on the other side. So for our factors of 40, we have 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 4 and 10, We have 5 and 8. Then if we move over to 64, we have 1 and 64, 2 and 32, not divisible by 3. So our next factor is going to be 4 and 16, not divisible by 5. And our last factors are 8 and 8. So now, since we're looking for the greatest common factor, we're looking for the number that is on both sides, that is the largest. So we can start at the bottom. So they both have 1. Every number will have 1. They both have 2, but they still have more factors after that. They both have 4. And it looks like the largest or the greatest is 8 that they share. So the greatest common factor of 40 and 64 is 8. So we can try this with a couple other problems. So number 1 says to find the greatest common factor of 9, 15, and 18. So now it's asking us to find the greatest common factor of 3 numbers. So I'm going to make my chart into one that has 3 columns. And then I'm going to list out my numbers. So we start with, we have 9, 15, and 18. Let's list out the factors for each of these numbers. So we have, for 9, 1 and 9, and 3 and 3. 15, we have 1 and 15, and 3 and 5. And then for 18, we have 1 and 18. So we have 2 and 9. And finally, we have 3 and 6. So we've listed out our factors. And now we need to look for matches. So they all have 1, but we're not going to worry about 1 because every number has a factor of 1. So if we continue down the list, it looks like they all have 3. And it looks like that's all that they have in common. So that tells us that the greatest common factor of 9, 15, and 18 is 3. So next, we can look at example number 2. And it's asking us to find the least common multiple of 7, 9, and 21. So once again, I'm going to make that kind of 3-columned chart. And then I'm going to list out my numbers. We have 7, 9, and 21. So we'll start with multiples of 7. So we have 7, 14, 21, 28, and we'll stop there for now and we'll add on more if we need to. So then we have, for 9, we have 9, 18, 27, 36, and we'll stop there and we'll add on more if we need to. We have 21, 42, 63, and we'll actually stop there. So let's take a look. So we do have a match, but it's only between 7 and 21. We don't have anything in 9 yet. So let's keep going with our multiples of 7 and then with our multiples of 9. See if we can find some more. So we left off with 7 times 4, which is 9. So 7 times 5, we have 35. 7 times 6, 42. 7 times 7, 49. 7 times 8, 56. 7 times 9, 63. And then 7 times 10 would be 70. Now let's continue on with 9. So we left off with 36. So 9 times 5 is 45. 9 times 6 is 54. 9 times 7, 63. Wait a second. 63. That sounds familiar. We have a 63 in our 7 column. We have a 63 in our 9 column. And we have a 63 in our 21 column. So that tells us that the least common multiple of 7, 9, and 21 is 63. So now we can look at the last example. Find the greatest common factor of 14 and 28. So now we're back to just using 2 numbers. So we just need 2 columns in our chart, but I'm just going to leave mine with the 3 for now. So we'll start with 14 on one side and 28 on the other. And we'll start listing out factors. So we have 1 and 14, 2 and 7. And then we can move over to 28. So we have 1 and 28, 2 and 14. Wait a second. 14 is a number that they both have in common. So that tells us that the greatest common factor of 14 and 28 is 14. So sometimes when we're looking at the greatest common factor and least common multiple, that number could be one of the numbers that we're looking at. Just like with example 3, the greatest common factor of 14 and 28 is 14, because 14 is also a factor of 28. So 5th graders, that is our least common multiple and greatest common factor. If you have any questions or need any help, please let me know. I am here to help as much as I can. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.